Welcome to Gemara Academy. In this class, we will learn Tosfos Dibur HaMaschil, Yitzias HaShabbos Shtayim Shein Arba. Let's begin by looking at a general outline of Tosfos. So Masechta Shabbos begins with the dinim of Eitzah. Our Mishnah is the first Mishnah in Masechta Shabbos, so it comes out that Masechta Shabbos begins with the dinim of Eitzah, the dinim of carrying. And Tosfos consists of the following. Tosfos will ask why the Masechta begins with these dinim and give three answers. Why does Masechta begin with the dinim of Eitzah? Tosfos will ask this question, he'll support it, he'll elaborate on it, and he'll provide three different answers. So let's see Tosfos now in the flowchart form. So the Masechta begins with the dinim of Eitzah, and Tosfos presents a question from the Riva, and that is, the Riva asked, the dinim of carrying should have been taught together with the Avos Malachas. The Avos Malachas are all taught later in Perek Klal Gadol. Over there the Mishnah describes and states what the 39 Avos Malachas are, and then afterwards the Mishnayos continue describing all the Malachas. So that would have been the proper place to also speak about the Malacha of Eitzah. Malacha of Eitzah is in the Mishnah of Perek Klal Gadol at the very end, and the description of that Malacha should have come after that Mishnah. And Tosfos continues in this question and says how the Masechta Shabbos should have really been structured. We should have started in chronological order with the dinim related to Erev Shabbos. The way Masechta Shabbos should have been arranged is we should have worked in chronological order the things that are related to Erev Shabbos, and then moved along throughout the dinim based on the timeline of what is an Erev Shabbos, what's closer to Shabbos, and what's on Shabbos itself. And Tosfos actually spells out how it should have been done. And this is actually the order that we find throughout the later Mishnayos in our Masechta. He says, starting with the things that are also close to nightfall. An example that he gives is a tailor not going out with a needle so that he doesn't come to carry on Shabbos. Then we should continue. Then things that are right by nightfall, things that are done right before Shabbos comes in because they're being done for Shabbos. For example, putting food to stay warm. What are the dinim related to that? Then things related to Shabbos itself, what a woman may wear, for example. So that should have been the order, starting with things that are on Erev Shabbos, close to nightfall, that a tailor can carry things, then things that are right by nightfall, they're related to the start of Shabbos, like putting things to warm, then things that are on Shabbos itself, behaviors that we instruct the person, what they're allowed to wear, and it's not an issue of carrying, and what they're not allowed to wear, because it is an issue of carrying. And then at the very end, the Avos Malachas, which are not instructions to a person that they need to do something specific, it's just what's usher to be done on Shabbos. So Tosfos says, this is how Masechta Shabbos should have been organized. And he continues by supporting this question. He's going to bring two precedences where we find that the Mishnah is organized in such a way that it goes in chronological order. We find it by the Mishnayos that speak about Pesach and the Mishnayos that speak about Yom Kippur. Tosfos says, like Pesachim starts with B'dikas Chametz that is on Erev Yudalid, then Yudalid. B'dikas Chametz is on Erev Yudalid, the night before Pesach. It also continues on into Yudalid at times. Then the Carbon Pesach that's on Yudalid. Then it speaks about the Carbon Pesach which is on Erev Pesach itself, the day, etc., and so on and so forth. It works in chronological order. And so too, and also Yuma, which speaks about Yom Kippur. It starts with the din of separating the Kohen Gadol 7 days before Yom Kippur. Then the dinim of Erev Yom Kippur, and so on and so forth, etc. It speaks about the dinim based on chronological order. So there we have the question of Tosfos, which is that Eitzah should have been written later on by Perek Klal Gadol, and the Masechta should have been arranged and organized in such a way that it reflects the chronological order of things. And Tosfos supports this question, and that's why it's on a purple arrow pointing upwards, by showing that we find that that's how the Mishnayos are arranged by Pesach and by Yom Kippur. Tosfos now is going to present three answers, starting with the first answer by Riva himself. And Riva answered, the Tana desired to begin with the dinim of carrying because we learn many things in it. So in other words, what Tosfos is saying here is that we're taking a different order over here. So although the later Mishnayos keep the order of chronology, the Tana over here went away from that order, and he inserted Eitzah, and the reason is because there are a lot of dinim related to Eitzah, and therefore it was dear to the Tana, it was chavivole, to start with this teaching because there's a lot of dinim within it. And now Tosfos explains what those dinim are. So the answer itself is that because there's a lot of dinim in it, in Eitzah, he chose to teach it first. Now Tosfos is going to mention, as a support to this answer, what are those many dinim? And these are teachings that are going to be discussed at length throughout the Gemara. Number one, we have carrying in and out. So we have achnasa and eitzah of the rich man and poor man, both of the person on the inside and the person on the outside. Number two, the need for an akira and hanacha in order for the malacha to be complete. Number three, if they did it together, they're pater. Number four, a person's hand is like 4 by 4 tefachim. And number 5, a person's hand extended into another rishus isn't like a rishus yachid nor a rishus rabim. It's not like either rishus, not the rishus that the person's body is in, and not the rishus where his hand is in. So that's the first answer of Tosfos, that the Tana moved away from this order of chronology and he inserted a tzol over here. He's not keeping that order, and the reason he did it is because there's something special in this Mishnah, that there are a lot of dinim that we learn in it. Now Tosfos moves on to the second answer given by Rabbeinu Tam, and the third answer is also going to be by Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam answered that it's normal for the Tana to start with dinim that are most common, and carrying is the most common malacha. So once again, he's saying that the Tana moved away from the order of chronology, and the order that he's focusing on is what's most common. And he says that that's normal for the Tana to do such a thing, to go in order of what's common. And the most common malacha is carrying. A person's constantly carrying. If a person's holding an object, so he's constantly carrying it. And now Tosfos supports this answer by showing a precedent that the Tana goes by order of what's common. And he brings two different sources. So too in Masechtas Bava Kama, the list of the Avos Nezikin is Shor Bar Mava Hever, and not like the order of the Parsha. Tosfos says that Shor Bar Mava Hever does not reflect the way they are organized in the Parsha, and the reason is because it reflects what's most common. The most common type of damage is through Shor, then Bar, then Mava, and then Hever. And another precedent we find for this, and also when counting the 4 people that need to think Hashem, are Bo'at Tzrichim Lohidus, 4 people that went through a crisis situation and need to bring a carbon Teda. It's not in the order of the pasuk. When the Tana says the 4 that need to say thank you to Hashem and bring a carbon Teda, it's not arranged and not presented in the order of the Parsha. And the explanation is that it's presented in the order of what's most common. So those are the first 2 answers of Tosfos, saying that the Tana veered off from the order of chronology and inserted Eitzah over here, either because there's something dear in Eitzah that there's a lot of dinim in it, or because the Tana is choosing rather to go by the order of what's most common, and Eitzah is the most common malacha. And now Tosfos presents the third and final answer, also by Rabbeinu Tam. He said Rabbeinu Tam answered that carrying was taught first in order to understand why a tailor can't carry a needle on Erev Shabbos. Tosfos is saying over here that the Tana did keep the order of chronology. And that's how we're supposed to look at the Mishnayos, that it's an order of chronology. So why is Eitzah inserted at the beginning? It's part of the chronology. In order to understand the din, that a tailor can't carry a needle when it's close to nightfall, because he might come to carry on Shabbos, we first have to know that there's a problem with carrying on Shabbos. So first the Tana teaches us that there's an issur to carry, and that way we can understand why it's usher, why it's prohibited for the tailor to carry a needle close to nightfall, since he might come to carry on Shabbos, which we already know is usher. And now Tosfos is going to support this answer by addressing a question on it. So therefore it's in a purple arrow pointing upwards because it's supporting it. But the words are going to be in red because he's addressing a question, and then the answer will be in green because that's an answer. And Tosfos says, and even though we don't learn about the issur of doing laundry and cooking before teaching the dinim of Erev Shabbos that relate to them, according to this explanation, the Tana should have taught us the issur of doing laundry on Shabbos, and the issur of cooking, and the issur of lighting a fire on Erev Shabbos, in order that we could know why there are isurim on Erev Shabbos that result from these isurim on Shabbos. Says Tosfos, even though he didn't teach it, that's not a problem for what we're saying here. And the reason is, we need to teach carrying because it's a weak malacha. Those other malachas, when a person sees something that's usher on Erev Shabbos related to cooking or making a fire or related to laundry, they understand that those things are usher on Shabbos. However, carrying is a weak malacha, and one simple way we could see it is because there's no change in the object, and therefore, since it's a weak malacha, it's necessary to first teach that it's a malacha before we can teach the isurim on Erev Shabbos that result from it. And this idea that it's a weak malacha will be explained later in the last Tosfos on our Mishnah. So with that we have the question of Tosfos and the 3 answers. And to summarize, Tosfos asks that it seems that Eitzah should not be the beginning of Masechta Shabbos. So why is it? Masechta Shabbos should have rather been organized in a way that reflects the chronology of things. So the first answer of Tosfos is that Eitzah was taken out of that order because the Tana found it dear and precious since it has a lot of dinim in it. The second answer is that Eitzah was taken out of that order because the Tana followed a different order, which is what's most common. And the most common malacha is carrying Eitzah. And the third answer is that the Tana kept the order of chronology. And the only reason Eitzah was taught here is in order that we could appreciate and understand why one of the things on Erev Shabbos is usher. The instance when the tailor carries a needle, we won't know the reason for it. So in order for us to learn that din, it's necessary to first introduce the malacha of Eitzah.